There's a war happening inside you, not loud, not obvious, but a slow erosion of who you are, one compromise at a time. You sense it when you're alone, that quiet tension between who you've become and who you know you could be. You see flashes of it, confidence, clarity, power, but then guilt creeps in. A voice whispers, "Don't be selfish, don't shine too bright." And just like that, you shrink. This isn't fear of failure. It's fear of becoming someone your past never gave you permission to be. Because rising means letting go of being relatable, and you've built your identity around being understood. Some people don't just fear your power, they're invested in your silence. Because when you grow, they lose their grip. That's what a dark empath understands. They mirror you, flatter you, echo your wounds, not to heal you, but to hook you. They crave control, masked as connection. But it doesn't start with cruelty. It starts with charm, with attention that feels like rescue. You meet someone who sees right through you, or at least pretends to. They don't take from you all at once. They earn your trust first, slowly, carefully. That's how the danger slips in, not as abuse, but as understanding. And by the time you feel the cost, it already feels like your fault. Trait 1, emotional X-ray. They read you instantly, like a blueprint, but don't mistake it for compassion. They feel your pain to weaponize it, not soothe it. Trait 2, the savior complex. They offer help with strings so invisible, you blame yourself when it unravels. Every kindness becomes a future debt. Trait 3, guilt alchemy. They don't accuse, they imply. They don't yell, they sigh. Suddenly you're apologizing for things you didn't do. Your empathy becomes a leash. Trait 4, the mirror trap. They become everything you ever wanted until you need something real. Then they turn cold, distant, like it was all in your head. Trait 5, the vanishing point. They don't leave, they evaporate, emotionally vacant, spiritually absent, and you blame yourself for the silence. So how do you protect yourself from someone who knows every soft spot? You stop narrating your pain. You stop giving them the script to play hero in. Boundaries aren't speeches, they're locked doors. No explanations, no justification, just move different. Short replies, quiet exits, starve their hunger for reaction. That urge to fix it, that's not love. That's your addiction to being chosen. Let it ache, then let it pass. Every time you don't reach, you reclaim yourself. Healing isn't poetic. Sometimes it's boring, numb, quiet. It feels wrong because you were trained to make others comfortable. But power isn't loud. It's stillness. It's walking away without flinching. It's not reacting when they notice you're gone. You don't need closure. You don't need to win the breakup. You need to remember the silence you feel now is peace returning. They didn't break you. They revealed the crack you kept patching with hope. Now you see it, and once seen, it can't own you. Write it in the comments. I saw through it. Not for revenge, but return. Return to the version of you that never had to perform love, just to feel worthy of it. Here's the part no one wants to admit. Sometimes you miss them, not because they were kind, but because they were consistent in the way they made you feel needed, and never quite enough. That confusion, that ache, that's not proof of love. It's trauma dressed in attention, a cycle of craving and collapse. You were trained to call it connection, but real love doesn't cost your peace. They didn't fall for you, they studied you. They gave you exactly what your childhood self never got, and took it away the moment you softened. You thought it was your fault. You tried to be more patient, more kind, more forgiving. But there's no amount of goodness that can fix someone who feeds on your self-doubt. This is what charm can hide. A hollow empathy, practiced, not felt. the ability to mimic your language, but never speak your soul. The dark empath doesn't explode, they evaporate. One moment they're warm, attentive, magnetic, the next, ice. And you're left apologizing for the temperature drop. But here's the truth, they don't expect you to find. You don't owe anyone your undoing. You don't have to bleed just to prove you're not cold. Sometimes the most radical healing is this: silence, distance, and letting the guilt stay without giving into it. You are not too much. You are just in the wrong hands. Now, you take yourself back, piece by unbreakable piece. And when they come back, because they always do, you don't explain. You don't defend. You simply don't open the door. Let that be your closure. Let that be your freedom. Let that be your proof. You've finally chosen yourself. And if this made something click, if a part of you whispered, "This was me," don't just scroll past it. Write it below. Let it land. I saw through it, because the moment you name it, it loses its grip. Subscribe if you're ready to unlearn the lies you were raised on. This isn't just psychology, it's soul recovery.